We now have the recognitions and reports from the superintendent. Superintendent Miles, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Vice President Flowers. At this time, I would like to invite our Deputy Chief of Community and Family Engagement, Naja Callender, to come forward and introduce this evening's district recognitions and campus close-ups.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. Happy Women's History Month.
Thank you.
My name is Naja Callender, and I serve as the Deputy Chief for Family and Community Partnerships in HISD. Joining us today is Milby High School students, staff, and alumni in recognition of their 100th anniversary of the school's founding. Milby opened in March 1926 with just 13 teachers and 212 students. By 1991, Milby was one of the largest high schools in Texas with 3,600 students. Milby's alumni include current and former community leaders, business owners, educators, and local and state politicians. Distinguished Milby alumni include HISD Centennial Impact honorees, the Honorable Ed Emmett, the former Houston City Council member Gordon Kwan, and Felix Fraga. So here to speak about Milby, we have a senior, Juliana Ramirez. She is now Juliana is going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear that Juliana is the 14th member of her family to attend Milby. She's played volleyball for 3 years, she's wrestled for 4 years, and she has served as the varsity captain for 2 years. So we don't want to see Juliana in the sports arena. After graduation, Juliana plans to study radiology at Lamar University. So please join me in welcoming Juliana to share her perspective.
Thank you. Welcome, Juliana.
Good afternoon. My name is Juliana Ramirez, and I am a proud senior and soon-to-be Milby alumni. Milby isn't just a school or a building where we attend classes. It is a place filled with pride, tradition, and memories from generations before us. I've heard stories from my grandparents about the dances they attended, and I also heard stories about my mom and my tia about being co-ed cadets. I've also heard stories, or I've also watched and cheered my brothers on as they played football and baseball. Knowing that my family once entered these halls and walked through the same doors and wore the same colors, blue and gold, make my experience here even more meaningful. Here at Milby, pride is not just a word, it is a feeling. It's the excitement at pep rallies, the determination we see in our classrooms, and the energy out on the field or court. Milby has taught me resilience when things feel difficult, and it has taught me leadership when I had to step up. But most importantly, it has taught me the power of community. Being part of a legacy means understanding the sacrifices and the dreams of those who came before me. My family's connection to Milby has inspired me to work hard and to represent the school with honor. And I am honored and proud to continue my family's legacy as I become the 3rd generation and the 14th Milby graduate from going back to 1968. I am even more honored to stand alongside my classmates as we become the next generation of Milby alumni. I would like to thank Ms. Pena, the staff, and my family for the support over the 4 years I've been there. Once above, always above. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana.
Juliana was really nervous, and she did an amazing job, so I want to say thank you for that. I just want to ask all of the folks who came to celebrate. We did a reception for the Milby folks, and they came in today, so I want to ask them all to stand and be recognized here. So if you are here supporting Milby High School. We have a little recognition that we're going to give Juliana, and just want to thank Principal Pena for getting and being such an amazing leader for this campus. So thank you so much. Thank you, Juliana.
Thank you.
Okay. Every month, HISD Now takes a deep dive into our campuses to highlight the great work happening in the district. This segment is called Campus Close-Ups, and here's a look at the campuses that we highlighted last month.
segment highlighting schools across HISD. In February, we stopped by 4 campuses: Hartsfield, Smith, and Memorial Elementary Schools, and Sterling High School. We kicked off the month at Hartsfield Elementary, HISD's only environmental science magnet school. From animals and STEM to robotics, drones, and 3D printing, students are engaged in hands-on learning every day.
And here we have some hamsters. They have a lot of energy.
Sometimes the hamsters will also hide.
Week 2 took us to Smith Elementary, where community and creativity shine. From piano club and student performances to a classroom building a true love of reading. We saw how students are growing academically and personally, including one 5th grader who shared how the school helped him learn English and excel in math.
I love most of this school is that when I first came, I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to speak English, but now I know how to speak English and read.
Next up was Memorial Elementary, an IB and dual language campus focused on global learning and strong community connections. Students are developing as critical thinkers and bilingual learners with hands-on experiences like their vast school garden bringing lessons to life.
During STEM class, about once a month, the kids will come out and either plant or harvest or weed or something like that.
And we wrapped up at Sterling High School, where students are reaching new heights through the aviation program. From flight simulators to welding and auto shops, these career pathways are preparing students for high-wage, high-demand jobs after graduation.
It just blew my mind how you can do so many things with it. Like, you can build anything, you can put your mind into it, to be honest.
4 schools, 1 month, and plenty of inspiring stories across HISD.
Hartsfield, Memorial, and Smith Elementary, please stand and be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your commitment to excellent education. I want to remind everyone that we support our schools and we support our students and that we are following our protocols. So if we speak out of turn, I will ask you to leave.
I'll continue. So thank you, Naja, and thank you for everybody from Milby and the other schools. It's great to see you here, and it's great to see those videos of what's actually happening in our schools, and a lot of great things are happening, as you can see. Every month we have those. You can also go on HISD Now and see what's actually happening in so many different schools across the district. Now I'd like to move to the first of 2 reports to the board tonight. One on the 1882 partnerships. As our Chief Orlando Riddick is coming up, I'm going to give a quick preamble. So when the intervention started, we had 121 D and F campuses. And not only did we have 121 D and F campuses, we had a lot of challenges in many other areas of the district. Yes, it wasn't doing very well in so many ways. The biggest way is that instructional coherence was not present. In other words, we didn't have a focus on high-quality instruction. That's a fact, and part of the reason is we had 274 autonomous schools. In the intervening 3 years,
Excuse me, sir. Miss in the green and the glasses. Yes, ma'am. Miss. Yes, that's your first warning. Your behavior is disrupting the meeting. This screaming out and laughing. If you do not stop, will you be asked to leave the meeting? This is your first warning. Thank you.
Just as the representative said, or the elected board member Placido said, yes, it wasn't very well. In the intervening 3 years, though, we have turned that around because we've had an intense focus on instruction. And now we have, from 121 D and F campuses, we have 16 D campuses, 0 F campuses. If that's not a turnaround, I don't know what is. It is much better, partly because of the instruction in every single school. However, having said that, in the profession, we understand that managed instruction theory of action, which is what we've had over the last 3 years, managed instruction, meaning tight controls over how instruction is delivered and how instruction is improved, that is indeed what we've had. However, as the profession also knows, over time, If you have just a managed instruction theory of action, it may stifle initiative and innovation. And every age and era changes. What was good 20 years ago may not be good anymore. And even NES has to move and evolve, especially given that the world is changing quickly, an AI-enabled world. That's why Future 2 is coming down the pike. Back to what we're talking about, though, the innovation has to be, or the right to innovate has to be earned. We call that earned autonomy. And we have several schools in this district who have earned the right to do way more innovation and autonomy. And unlike what you heard, 1882 partnerships are about two things. One is, yes, improving struggling campuses. The other, by law, is that innovation counts for 1882 partnerships. So that is why I asked the board, and we brought to the board, a pathway for many of our high-performing campuses who have shown year after year after year that they are helping kids to read, write, do math, and much more. They have earned that. In fact, for level 5, they have to have at least 4 years in a row of an A rating from the state and low achievement gaps in their schools. So that is why we want to move towards 1882 partnerships. They're not charters. They're not private schools. They are our schools. And the board has seen the draft performance contracts. You'll receive the performance contracts before you vote on it, of course. But tonight we want to talk a little bit more about it. And you've already heard from some of the speakers. You'll hear from others about how they think it will help their schools. It will help our kids thrive, but it will also give those schools even more opportunity to innovate and change with the changing world.
Once again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be up here to follow up around the preamble that Superintendent Miles shared. One of the things that we know as we begin to innovate and move from the managed instruction is the why behind 1882. You heard that from Superintendent Miles. The autonomy does come with guardrails, and I'll speak to those guardrails as I move through the presentation. And it also brings a funding incentive that comes with it as well. As we pursue this opportunity that came in 2017-18 from the state of Texas, it allowed not only for what you heard previously, the opportunity to take on low-performing schools who had to turn themselves around. It also meant for innovative schools to give them the flexibility to lead and get the autonomy to build and grow in the direction that they needed to move forward in. One of the things that we did initially was Superintendent Miles ran the data and invited leaders to the table. We wanted to get a proof point and start with just high schools. We have elementary, middle, and high schools in this proof point around what it meant to achieve the data that he spoke to a moment ago. In that proof point, it talked about the 4 years of sustained A's. If you go back even further, you will see that these schools have demonstrated this consistently beyond just the 4 years. We had to see that they had an equity gap between black and white, Hispanic and white, in reading and math that was below 25%. The schools that we're bringing forward meet that threshold, and some more than half of that threshold, where they are now looking at a 12%, 7%, 9% achievement gap. So they're delivering in this aspect. In the contract, you'll see that there is still an expectation that they meet or exceed what that achievement gap is. In essence, bring a lower achievement gap than what they've already established. You'll see that they've developed what are clear expectations in effective teaching. This is the why in regards to bringing them forward to the table. There's a leadership built capacity in this as well, and I'll share that in a moment when I get to further slides. There's also a strong student and staff climate and community climate within the school itself as well. It's important that they have the full breadth of a 360 in regards to the campus. This is not all inclusive, but this does demonstrate why they are coming to the table. There's enrollment stability, meaning they are not losing enrollment. They are maintaining or exceeding what their enrollment projections are year over year. And there's an operational stewardship, not just about the facility and how they operate the building, but there's a financial stewardship that comes with this as well. And I'll speak to that here in just a moment on top of this. You saw previously in a presentation that Superintendent Miles brought to you on February 12th, a timeline that referenced where this began. I spoke just a moment ago about sitting at the table with Superintendent Miles, in essence going through an interview in regards to, do you accept this as an opportunity? And if so, you need to go back to your community. You need to go back to your teacher community and your parent community and share this opportunity to launch forward. There had to be this engagement that began back in September and October, and they had to take this forward before they then accepted the survey, which happened about 3 weeks later, to say, we want to go in. We want to proceed and move forward. That is the identify and engage. They then had to pursue what is a partnership application. TEA has an application, it's their application model that you can use. You can use your own, but we use the TEA model. And in that model, they've generated several areas that speak to their academic campus performance, as well as their academic curriculum. They had to talk about their governance, they had to talk about their operations facility, as well as their finance. Many of the applications that you'll see that will come forward that we will present and give to TEA once the opportunity to approve the contract comes forward on the 26th can exceed over 200 pages. When we submit the final product to TEA, it will be upwards of 300 pages of information that we will submit that they've worked on since that October timeframe, and then we're ready to submit for a review that happened in the February 14th window. The application had to be evidence-based, so you'll see that when the application is presented, and they had to create what is their 501c3. We had two well-established 501c3s during this time, and we had two new 501c3s that were developed afterwards. The two principals at HISD, the Houston Academy for International Studies, and Challenge Early College High School, are the newly developed 501c3s. They have been approved by the state. They're going through the next stages, which is a federal application, so they can have their tax-free exemption that comes along with that state approval. During the time the applications were submitted, there's now a scoring of the application. There are three categories of the scoring. Either you met, partially met, or did not meet in the areas that were over 80 areas that were identified in the scoring rubric. In that was scored by several members within the central office, myself, as well as two team members, one from the Chief of Schools office, one from the Chief of Staff office, as well as one from the schools office of the division. And then we had another individual from the Region Service Center, from Region Service 4, who came and sat. The five of us then reviewed each of the applications and spent 2 full days reviewing what that looked like. Upon that application scoring, we then now invited them back for a capacity interview. So areas that we had questions about in their application, they had to come back as a team, principal leader, as well as partner leader as well, to sit with us and address questions that we had within the application. That will be part of the process as well that we will submit to TEA. It's a lengthy process, the scoring rubric on top of the application. That's why you will see applications or the packet that will go to TEA that could be upwards of 300 or more pages. Then we'll get to the point where on the 26th, you will then make the determination on, do we now proceed to move forward with the contract that is developed, which will come as part of the application submission to TEA, to make that decision on moving them forward. TEA will then take the next several months to review all of that information to make the determination on, do we have 1880 schools ready to move forward? The campuses are right here, and you've seen this multiple times, and it's not been a secret around this. We have more. 3 decided, there were 7 schools that were at the table. 3 decided to go into a planning year, potentially going to next year to make that decision if they were going to move forward. That was going to be Eastwood, that was going to be Carnegie, and that was going to be DeBakey. These 4 continue to move forward. And we have 4 incredible leaders that are leading this work at these campuses. We have leaders that have been in HISD for 20 years at the minimum, as many as 27 years. We have leaders that have been at their campus for 13 to 20 years at their campus and who were the inspiration behind the design of the school itself. First leading off was the Energy Institute led by Lori Lamprodopoulos. She's been at that campus for 13 years and was the leader and the developer and the CEO and the design behind the Energy Institute. You can see the ratings that they've had over the 4 years that I mentioned previously. You heard from several students as well as parents around the design of the Institute. It is project-based learning around what students feel are valuable to their learning as they move forward, and it works. The idea that a gentleman brought earlier about the curriculum, it allows them at that point in time to design and infuse and grab curriculum from areas that they find inspire the work that they're moving forward on. The Houston Academy for International Studies shared that there's an opportunity for them to merge what are international studies with early college high school model. We are partnered with Houston City College. There are 2 schools that do that partnership, HISD, which we refer to the Houston Academy, and Challenge. They build not only what is the advanced placement protocols within their school, but they also merge what is the dual credit opportunity for students to get their associate's degree during this time frame. And then we have Kinder, which is in the namesake itself. Kinder allows our kids to not only take the rigor of academics, married with their giftedness around the area of performance or fine arts, merges those areas to launch kids to an opportunity. You heard about the curriculum. They have the opportunity now to go and build and develop from around the world the opportunity to build what this looks like for our students. Terms. We had terms around this. I already spoke to the 501c3. You had to establish it. You had to have a campus leader. You had to have what are financial controls. In the application, it speaks to that. You'll see that through line, not only in the application, you'll see it in the scoring rubric, and you'll see it in the contract itself. There are safeguards that build themselves all the way through about staffing, about student enrollment, about your finances, about governance, the things that you have to do in order to maintain your controls, and we get to look at that consistently. And then there's accountability. There's a 5-year window that we are offering them to say, if you want to pursue this, you get 5 years to pursue this. If there are checks and balances along the way, and if you do not pursue what is in the performance contract that says you have to live up to these obligations, at that point in time, we then do self-correction. If you can't get it further, we then do probation. If you can't do it further from that, we have to make the decision on should you remain in 1882 school. This is just the context around what is the terms of agreement that I spoke to you just a moment ago. There's the academic accountability. You cannot slip and go backwards. You have to either maintain or increase what your accountability is. Some may be a little difficult because we have schools that are at the 97th and 98th in regards to an A, but you need to maintain your A because that's what this expectation is driven around. You've got to take your academic achievement gap and you've got to reduce it. Or maintain what you're at. 7% is a great academic achievement gap, but we have 7% of kids who still need to catch themselves around reading or math. You got to use the facility and use it well. We have some old facilities, but just because it's old doesn't mean you have to act old, and just because you're new, you have to maintain what new looks like around the facility. We have the budget. You got to maintain your budget. We gave them a menu of services that say here are the agreements that you can opt in or out of. An example of menu of services you can opt out of are grounds. I'll keep it very simple. You can say that I don't want you to do grounds, HISD. I feel I can do grounds much better. If that's the case, we will give you the funding to do grounds and you go do it. But again, on the facility side, you have to maintain what the expectation and standard is that we have around the facility. And we audit you. We audit you independently. We audit you functionally. Every year you will have a formal audit, and we can then come in monthly as well to audit the books. Jim Terry is going to have an accountant that will address the 4 1882s independently and work with them so we can reconcile every month to ensure our funding is meeting that agreement. I've already spoken to the 5-year agreement term. This is what the 1882 looks like. This is what we're driving forward for schools to have that opportunity to leave what some parents may say are the copies, to leave what some parents say what may be the NES, whether they agree or disagree around it. It allows them the flexibility and the autonomy to increase what it looks like, and they can't go backwards. Thank you. Questions?
Questions? Yes, Dr. Cruz Arnold.
Thank you, Chief Riddick, for your presentation. I have a question around the distribution of the funding incentive. I know that contracts are under negotiation, but is there a baseline distribution or division between what the district receives, what the campus receives, and what the partner receives?
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad you asked that question around the funding mechanism. We've done multiple meetings with the campuses budgetarily. We've met with them individually and collectively to walk through a budget that the superintendent and the CFO have determined what it looks like. There's a base that every school across the district will receive, and they're in that base. On top of that base, which is called a PPOR, there are incentive items that fall within there. And the superintendent is now right-sizing what that looks like around their special ed students, around the number of EB students that you have, around CTE students that you have. There are campuses that we have, the 4, that are going to receive a funding mechanism that will increase because of the number of SPED students and EB students that they serve. We gave them an additional opportunity as well. We aligned that the state gives you all this money in order as a campus, and we aligned what that looks like, all the money and funding you receive from the state. We have what is the district funding mechanism, which is these are the dollars that we will give you as a district. And both offer highs and lows within that funding mechanism. The 1882 gives you dollars by being in 1882, and as a district, we're giving you $1,200 on top of that for every student to go do the things that you'd like to go do. The state, it might be around $1,400 that the state may have, plus or minus. They have a decision at that point in time to see the bottom line, to make a determination which budget do they feel that they want to go forward with. At that point in time, they'll choose the budget they want to move forward with and then begin to operate.
Sorry about that. Thank you for your feedback. Slightly different topic. This one is with respect to auditing and reporting. Thank you for the comments around the yearly annual financial audit.
Yes, ma'am.
What can you share about accountability, academic performance monitoring, and how that might be shared with the community and the board moving forward?
Sure, thank you. So in their application, they have to address their academic model and how they hold themselves accountable around that. They still have to take the state performance exam, so STAR EOC is still going to be a priority that they have to take. They can't opt out of that, but they can opt into measures that they will use to formally address themselves either weekly, monthly, or every 9 or 6 weeks, however they determine on how they measure themselves along the way. That's a factor that they have to do to ensure that they make sure that they're maintaining what that A looks like, as well as the student achievement, so that they can measure and see where they're falling around that. There are things that we do as a district that they can opt into, or they can choose that they want to do something different. An example could be MAP. We do not do MAP in English 1 at the high school. They can choose to offer MAP as an opportunity for them to use that as a measure. So there are some things that they can explore, not only internally as a campus, but there are some things external that they can do as well to measure their achievement along the way. They have to measure their achievement because the application asks around their SPED students, around their EB students, around their students who are at risk. They have to measure that, we look at it, and they have to continue to look at that as well. Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Colon?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Very nice. What governs the district's ability to terminate the contract if the operator does not meet expectations?
Yeah, the opportunity is from this board at that point in time for us to bring information. So I sit as an intermediary to monitor and watch what it looks like. We measure a performance contract. So the performance contract that our general counsel is working with in negotiation with the partners for working on 4 individual contracts makes that determination to say you have to be fiscally responsible. If you are not meeting your budget and you're not having a clean audit, then that would reject you as an opportunity to continue to advance forward. If you're not hitting your achievement levels academically, which we just spoke about with Ms. Arnold, that as well means that you will not be able to continue to move forward. Now, there are safeguards we do. We just don't come in and make that as a termination unless there's something completely egregious that is occurring and happening. We want to work with a partner to say, can you self-correct and fix this? If we put safeguards in place, you cannot self-correct, then we have to make a decision on what does it mean to terminate. There is a revocation piece within the contract that speaks to what do we do in order to revoke the opportunity to advance and move forward. It's built into their application, it's built into the contract, and it's a continual conversation that they know. Be careful what you ask for, because once you're in, you need to make sure that you are able to deliver. That's why we're going with these 4 schools.
Thank you. Trustee Garza-Linder?
Thank you. Can you explain a little more about how the contract will deal with staffing?
Sure.
What impact will our staff members have or experience? Are there impacts to their benefits? Do they work for the school or HISD? Can you help me understand a little
Yes,
more about
ma'am.
that?
So the staff are part of HISD. They are HISD staff. So the partner has to take on what is 1 employee at the minimum. one employee gets hired over to the partner. Everyone else can remain part of the staff. In the future, it could be an opportunity for staff members to move over to the partner if the partner is able to sustain what that looks like and meet all the metrics around what that means. The financial aspect of the staff members can remain the same for where they're at, or it could increase, because they could increase what pay could look like for a teacher. Based on our model right now, it'd be highly competitive for them to sustain a model that meets or mimics something very similarly. Benefits will stay the same. They receive the same benefits in regards to what they're receiving right now. In the model itself, not only in the application, they have to address staffing around recruitment, around retainment, around deliverables, around if you're not meeting the expectation, what do we do to support and or remove a staff member who's not meeting that expectation around the culture and climate and outcomes that we have as a campus. That's built into their application. It's built into the contract as well.
Thank you. To clarify, let's say there's a challenge with a staff member and they need to be exited. How does that work? Are they exited but still would qualify to work in HISD?
So we would still go with the same process that we do currently right now. There will be a file review. They would have documentation to support why they would want to remove a staff member. It cannot be arbitrary. So you have to have a piece in which our general counsel then works in regards to ensuring that we establish a role and a protocol for how we remove a staff member in any factor, because these are still our schools, these are still our staff members, and we have to ensure that that staff member has the due process in regards to what it means if I have been deemed to be not ready to stay in this campus. Campus has their data, we go to file review, and there's a process that takes them from that point all the way through.
Sorry, just to clarify so that I understand. There is an opportunity, given the school's budget and how they may choose to portion the money to potentially offer more competitive raises than or salaries than what HISD offers.
Correct.
If they could make it work within their budget.
If they can make it work within their budget.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. And we're having strategic compensation conversations currently right now.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Mendoza?
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying some of those questions. And you've covered a couple of them, but I wanted to ask about, looks like you have experienced leadership at those 4 schools already.
Yes, ma'am.
But is the district going to give them more support and more training to be an 1882 school? Because it's going to be different, right?
Yeah. I'm thankful for that question. So we are all moving through the 1882 process, and I have our principals here this evening, and they were here as well on the 12th. And so I meet with them one-on-one every week to walk through a process on whatever questions that we might have throughout this duration of time. We meet every Friday collectively as a group so we can learn from each other, so I can present and bring more information to them as well. Every Wednesday, TEA has an open office hour for them to go to take questions and build on what that learning looks like. The menu of service that I spoke to earlier makes the determination on what support we bring or what support we don't bring. When you talk about autonomy, the idea of autonomy is that you believe you can do it better than we can. And if that's the case, you opt out of the services that we have and you go do that service. We give you the funding and you go do that service. If you feel like you want to use the service that we have because we deliver it in a very good way, then we do provide what that support is like. And they have me as well as an opportunity to continue to move what this work looks like.
Thank you. And so that for me is really key, right? You want to make sure
Microphone.
that they have the support that they need to be successful, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because they've already shown proof of being successful, so that's important. Holding those schools accountable also, right? So you kind of explained that, I think, with Trustee Arnold was talking about. So I appreciate you answering that, but just remembering, right? We have to hold them accountable so they continue to do well and our students are successful at that. You did mention this, but I'm going to ask, and I'll probably ask every time. I just want to hear it again. These will remain in our HISD district. They're district schools,
yes,
correct?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They do. And they report to us every year about the performance of what they do, and I report to you every year about what they're doing and conducting. These are our schools.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Goosen?
Yes. When do you see a possibility that we might move this opportunity to middle schools? Is that something you've discussed, or are we going to keep it at the high school level at this time?
I'll turn that to Superintendent Miles.
Yes, I'll take that question. So We started with high schools and what we call level 5 autonomy.
Right.
In the earned autonomy framework, which we will roll out soon, the principals have already seen a bit of it. There's also a level 4 autonomy for schools that have, in the last 4 accountability ratings, 3 A's and 1 B. And in that case, we will open it up to middle schools as well as high schools at level 4. At the same time, having said that, we want to do this in a controlled fashion. And so the thinking is right now that next year we may grow a handful of level 5, which is what the group is asking you to approve on the 26th, and a handful of level 4. So that it's not a free-for-all, and it's a very measured, controlled process.
Yes, Trustee Gore.
Thank you. Great presentation, Chief Riddick, and I really like before I get into my 3 questions, I just want to acknowledge that the way you phrase the autonomy point for people who think they can do it better. Look, I'm all for not being the best. Some people can do it better, right? For people who think they can do certain things better, and for those schools that are high performing consistently, they have earned the right to try.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And I think that's really well said. So I appreciate that. Okay, three points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first, oversight on the money. How are we watching it? How are we controlling it? You said Mr. Terry is sort of developing a task force. Just make it super simple and dive in there. How do we keep our eyes on the money and maintain oversight over what's going on down at the school
So we will have
level?
an accountant on the oversight that will manage and watch how the money is coming to reconcile with each of the schools. So 3 of the schools need us to do this and perform this task. So we will cover all of their financial aspects in regards to 3 of our schools. One of the schools has the legs and the breadth to be able to operate and move further along, where we'll do reconciliation between what they've done and their spending to ensure that it's meeting state and federal compliance, ensuring that they're not having any kind of missteps.
It goes off automatically. So when you say reconciliation, you mean we have a right to audit, right? Is that what you mean? Okay, so that's good. That's a good thing.
Not only a yearly audit that will come formally every year, but there's an opportunity to reconcile between what they've done budgetarily and what we're seeing budgetarily to make sure that they align.
Great. Okay, so this is another second question is on the money point again, right? Just keep it super simple. So you said there's more money for schools that elect into the 1882 partnership or request to be admitted into an 1882 partnership. There is more money available for students. I heard you say numbers 1,200, 1,400. Just break that down a little bit. More money is going to the classrooms, to the students.
Absolutely.
If they are enrolled in 1882. Can you just provide a little more clarity in simple terms around that point?
The campus can receive up to $1,200 more per student. We have a campus that has 800 students in it, so you just take the 1,200 times 800, and you now get a dollar threshold that you can think about what you can do around salary, what you can do around curriculum, what you can do about opportunities to extend students' learning outside of your building. You have an opportunity to do some creative and innovative things that you may be constrained with right now because you do not have the funding to experiment and draw these things out. I'll use energy as an example. They want to extend what it looks like around their project-based learning, their student-based learning. But there are some work that they'd like to do in the summer with their kiddos that their funding mechanism does not allow them to be able to do that could help increase the leverage of where kids are going in the fall. HSPBA has a similar problem. They want to have their kids get an experience around their arts area that may not be local, that could be outside of our area, but they don't have the funding mechanism in order to do that outside of raising those dollars through their foundation.
That's great. Which brings me to now my third point around best practices for managing the budget administration. As we can see, we've got new boards coming in, right? We've got the friends of the schools and those incredibly courageous volunteers, citizens who are stepping up to do that work. But as you see in these meetings, it's complicated, and governance is nuanced. And some people may say go left, some people may say go right. Are we preparing our 501c3 boards, our friends of these schools, with the not just the administrators, the boards, with the right kind of training so that they have the resilience to face what we all see here every month and still kind of keep their head level as they are executing against what is in the best interest for the children. So can you speak to how we're preparing the boards of these schools to be strong and resilient in the face of very complex decisions?
Yeah, thank you for that, because they have to operate differently than they operate if they're a part of the foundation. So the first thing I've done is I've reached out to Region 4 to set up what our board training, and we've got that coming up in the horizon when we get to the 26th first. And that will take them through, let me call that Board 101, understanding the complexity of how you operate as a board when you sit at a dais or in the location of where they will host their board meeting. So you understand all aspects of governance, conflict of interest, and Open Meetings Act are the heavier lift. Fortunately, they have been a part of us in working through the budget piece. We've had board members who have been in that conversation with us along the way to learn all the nuances of what it means to run and operate a budget. And they're bringing some very tough questions to the table also. So there's a skill set that sits there where we have one board member who's a CPA. So they're not just bringing just random individuals who are sitting out there to become part of this work. We have board members that are attorneys. We have board members that run large organizations, board members that sit on other foundations that see what this work looks like. So on top of that, we have also set up one-on-one times to sit with our budget team so we can walk through and be very meticulous on how the budget comes. There are some things that they're going to have to learn on top of that. There's going to be function codes, object codes, how they approve a budget as they march forward, a fund balance, and how a fund balance moves and operates. That's what will help lift on that training.
Can I add to that, sir? So at least the members that I've heard about on these boards of directors are very accomplished, just like this board, and bringing great skills in lots of areas, whether it's legal, finance, or otherwise. Many have been on boards, many boards before. And at the same time, one of the things about autonomy is you have to give them the right to fail. If you want to have total autonomy, you have to let them do it. We will govern, you will govern through a performance contract. They have to meet the outcome. But you can't hold their hands too much, and I'm sure they don't want their hand held. So you have to let them do what they believe is the right way to govern for their board, obviously within the law. And I'm very positive they will. Our job will be to hold them, to watch them along the way. But in the end of the day, they will have their own audit. They will figure out their own relationships with their principal or their head of schools, and they'll rise or fall based on their governance structure.
Trustee Goosen?
Yeah, can I just clarify something? The extra money you're talking about is through the state,
correct,
not from other HISD schools or the other out of
correct.
the HISD.
They're not receiving money from
other schools. To be clear, we're not taking money from any other school,
Absolutely.
any other program within HISD, but it's coming through the state to encourage programs like ours to create 1882 partnerships.
Absolutely, yes, sir. It's funded by the state until the state decides to no longer fund this. And right now, it's being very successful.
Thank you.
And might I add, sir, 100% of the $1882 is not going to the 1882 partner. In fact, you heard Orlando said somewhere around 1,200, while we may be getting 1,400. The number is not exactly clear yet because the state is the one that determines how much money, how much $1882 we get, and they'll let us know. But we know it's somewhere around $1,400 or so, depending on the number of at-risk kids and stuff like that you have at each school. But we're providing not only additional money from what our district budget is, but 80% of the $1882. So our kids, they're not our kids, they're all our kids. The rest of the students outside the 1882 will receive some portion of that.
Trustee Garza-Lidner.
I hadn't heard a question quite like this one yet, so I wanted to make sure I addressed this. But how will these contracts ensure that schools are accessible to all of our HISD students, and that schools do not cherry pick students in order to maintain their accountability ratings, to mess with the achievement gap? criteria that we've set here? And how do we make sure that students with various characteristics, such as economically disadvantaged or SPED students, only as two examples, how do we make sure that these schools are going to be accessible to all of our HISD kids?
Thank you for that question. So one of the things that they have in their application is they have to address how they will recruit, retain, and market themselves to students in their community, specifically students who are at risk, special ed, or emergent bilingual. So part of that is this year they are in our school choice process. The other part is they have to follow the law. So there's got to be a way where they have to then produce their enrollment policy, because that's part of the application policy piece as well. And we've not yet agreed in the future that they would go to a school choice, go out of our school choice process. It's an asterisk right now. This year they're in. As we move forward, it could be that they go ahead and move into their own process. But in that, they have to give us their enrollment process. They have to give us their enrollment policy so we can understand how they are bringing students in. But like Superintendent Miles shared, that's part of the autonomy to ensure that we watch and monitor and that they deliver what is an expectation that they have for their community.
And one of the things we've been looking at in order to even consider their application is their track record of how they've been accepting kids. And everybody, at least these four, have a commitment to making sure that underserved kids get served as well. And so that's part of the trust they've built. Obviously, we can't control that going forward. This year, it's all done through the choice process, so it's no different than years before. But in going forward, they may want to make some adjustments to take more kids from neighboring districts, and we're hoping that they will also take diverse kids, and they've proven that they have that commitment.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? So these are outstanding schools, and I understand they've built this trust, but this is a new model. Can you at least elaborate on what is the law in terms of open enrollment? Because it's not like that's common knowledge. So when you say they follow the law, what does that mean? How do we know this is an open enrollment school? What are the restrictions?
So one of the things that we do is we ensure that through our general counsel, they have the opportunity to follow what we have as a discrimination or an aspect of how kids get access to their school. And what I know from the current process they have right now is they do have special ed students, they do have EB students, and they do have students that are at risk. So we have a process that is delineated through our school choice that our general counsel and our attorneys have found to meets the merit of the law when we have families who are enrolling. They would follow something very similar.
So we're a trust but verify folks. So can you tell us, we mean legally, how do we make them make that choice?
Legally, there's protected categories of students that they are not allowed to discriminate against, and that includes when they enroll. So the enrollment policy that if they eventually change or want to change, has to meet that bar. I'm looking over at Katasha because she's the one that's going to look at any policy to say, this is discriminatory against specific categories of kids. I know you don't want to say much, Katasha, in an open forum, but do you want to just confirm or deny?
No, I think you guys have said it. One of the things that we have to do for oversight is to ensure that if they do decide to change in the future, this year obviously they're using the school choice process of ours. If there are any changes to the enrollment policy, that it meets applicable standards. That's something that is very important to me in my office. One, because we defend any challenge to those lawsuits, but even if the district were to make changes to enrollment policies, those come through me as well. And so that is the method of ensuring it is reviewed by the legal counsel to ensure that any changes do not violate the law.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. If we can, so There's some real innovators here, and we talked about the two purposes of the law. One is for struggling school, the other is for innovation, and we've clearly gone all in on innovation. And I really appreciate hearing the history of the continued success of the schools. Do we have measures to continue to put barriers around innovation, meaning these are A+ schools that are innovators? And so this makes sense, but just because you're an A+ does not mean that we want all of our A schools going into this model. So have y'all thought about what, I haven't heard anything about a criteria around innovation. Clearly it's there because I see the schools, but as we roll this out, what are your thoughts about that?
I think one of the reasons why I talked about going slow, we have these 4. There may be a handful of others at the level 5 next year, and then just a handful more. So the innovation is really up to them, of course, once they reach an area where we feel that they still have to have good academics and good outcomes in reading, writing, math, and science, because that's job number 1. And there is no time for innovation that doesn't get kids to read at grade level. So they have to do that first, and then they can do much more than that. And you heard the types of innovative things they're already doing, and we expect them to do that and more with regard to innovation. So that's why there's the parameters. I know it's not definite. There will only be 4. I think it depends on the number of applications, but that's the level that we're talking about. And I'm sorry I'm ignoring you guys, not trying to. So that's the level we're talking about. That's the number we're talking about.
Thank you, and I have one more, the achievement gap. So you said 25% and below, and then you named many of the schools, or you said some of them or one of them, the 7%. And you said we're going to incentivize them to continue. But what do you mean by that? Again, we want to make sure that it's verifiable, and a threshold for 25 is not the limit. So how do we ensure that they when you said they have to have progress, what do we mean? Or are we there yet? Like with the, what does that mean?
You want to answer, and I'll add to it.
Superintendent. So one of the things that we've done is we've tracked their data back to 2021 to see what their achievement gap looks like on reading and math, Black, white, Hispanic, white, to determine what does that look like and what does that mean. The 25% was a threshold that we established and put forward to say you have to, at the minimum, meet what this threshold is. Many of the schools that I'm referencing right now, the 4, are well below what that threshold is. Now the challenge for them is, can you reduce what you look like in a single digit? Can you continue to reduce that number year over year based on your targeted areas that we use STAR as that measure and your 9th and 10th grade student class? So that's the challenge that they have before them, because it is a challenge every year. You get a new freshman class that walks in, and that freshman class brings different nuances to the table. And if you're going to meet what we have as an expectation, you've got to make the reading, math, and science a deliverable, and innovation can't be your only leverage point.
Yes, and one of the things the board is well aware that, one of the 2 biggest parts of the vision statement is narrowing the achievement gap. And one of the things in our profession around high-performance schools, sometimes they mask subgroup data and sometimes they mask achievement gaps. And that's why we have in their contract, in order to be renewed, not only do they have to maintain their A ratings, but they have to lower their achievement gap. So if it's 25, and I don't have it in front of me, but if it's 25% now, they have to lower it by 5 percentage points in 5 years, or 20% if you're at 9 achievement gap, lowering it by 5 percentage points would be really much harder to do. So by 20% in 5 years. So we are very conscious of the achievement gap always, even for our highest performing schools, and that's part of their performance contract.
I appreciate that specificity. So it is in the contract that 20%, so wherever you are maintaining or making it better.
Yeah, and I may have the 20% wrong, but it's in the contract.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Thank you. We really appreciate the thoroughness around this incentive. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, ma'am. And at this point, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the district action plan for 26-27. Members of the board, Madam President, or Vice President, I'd like to just go briefly over the 26-27 action plan. You will get much more detailed data around what we call the indicators of success and the specific actions, but I didn't want to take up too much time tonight to go over that, but to show you the big bullets. As you know, this process started over winter break, where I draft the action plan, and then we have lots of iterations because the departments have to look at the indicators and the specific actions, and we're not quite done with that. Still, this is tied closely to the budgeting process. It also leads the department action plans and the department budgets. So, for example, on the 20th, tomorrow, there'll be draft budget templates for the departments to work off of. On the 27th, there'll be school budget templates. I think that's right. For the schools to work off of. And all of this is tied closely to the district action plan. Department action plans are then built off of that. The school action plans follow that. And the budget then are tied to all of the actions so that our money follows where our actions lie. So, 9 actions for the district that are things that we're going to prioritize for next year. I remind you of the vision statement because we follow this to a T. It's not just some pie-in-the-sky statement. We've been working on narrowing the achievement gaps, and we've done that better than any other urban district in the history of Texas and probably the United States. And then we have also been working on preparing students for year 2035 world and workplace, and my team will tell you that I've started using the year 2030 world and workplace because things are moving so fast. So what are the 9 key areas that we will have specific metrics for and also spend our priority, have as a priority for next year? Well, key action 1 is always improving the quality of instruction. And that will be the case until, even after we get all A and B schools. It's the quality of instruction that's the #1 variable in raising student achievement, so that remains a priority, and we spend money to do that. Number 2, as this board knows, we will continue to accelerate achievement for HISD students. We talked to you about accelerated math for all, trying to get all of our 8th graders to be in a position to take Algebra 1 before they leave 8th grade. Not all kids will get there, so some kids will take 8th grade math in 8th grade, but we're hoping that most of our kids over the next several years will take Algebra 1 before they leave 8th grade. That's just one of the many things that we're placing some energy into. You've heard about Future 2, the CTE centers. These are all priorities for next year. Implement the Future 2 pilot program. That's key action number 3. That program is the next iteration of NES, so we are putting some time, energy, and money into the Future 2 program. In a quickly evolving world, this is going to become more and more important. And so we'll be expanding that Future 2 program. Key action 4, again, the board will recognize this as something we've talked about, but now we have to implement with gusto. The Barbara Jordan Career Center and ensuring that those career tech ed programs and programs of study are implemented well. We will also break ground in the fall on the expansion part of Barbara Jordan. You also know that next year we will break ground on the South Side launch pad and also be working with HCC on the career centers in the West Side. So a lot to do next year on Key Action 4. Number 5, improve SPED instruction. I've been talking about this. Yes, we had to get out of compliance jail, and we've done a pretty good job of that, meaning state and federal compliance requirements, and we've been working on that. At the same time, having been in this profession for a while, and Vice President Flowers, you know this too as an educator, our SPED instruction across the profession has not been very strong. There's lots of reasons for that, and we have been addressing those, and you'll see us doing some work this year, this coming year, on making sure that we put our teachers and our kids, our special needs teachers and special needs students, in a position to where they can dramatically improve the quality of instruction for our kids so that they're not getting a less rigorous education regardless of their disability. Key action number 6, provide accurate, timely information to the HISD community. One of the most important things we did over the last couple years is Parent Square, the website, and HISD Now. And that has been a great thing to get accurate information out to the community. And so we will double down on that and continue to make sure that our families, our communities, our staffs get accurate, timely information. So we'll be investing in that. We will continue to invest in that. Key action number 7, we implemented a pay-for-performance system this year, and so the pay will start at the beginning of next year. Once they get evaluated, they'll be tied to this compensation. We want to make sure that rolls out very well and that we continue to tweak it and improve it so that it is the most accurate and fair evaluation system in the country. We think we're pretty close to that. Maybe Dallas has a better one, but we will be soon if we're not already. That's key action number 7. Key action number 8, early childhood. This is the time across the nation, across Texas, we need to do bold things to change so that kids really get have the ability to read, write, and do math at grade level before they graduate. And so we need to do some bold things here in early childhood to make sure that they are readers by 3rd grade, and not take 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades to learn how to read. So we're going to be doing some things there. That's key action 8. We're very excited about some of the things that are happening in the early childhood arena here. And then finally, I know we don't talk about this a lot, but we do a lot on efficiency across the district with regard to service level agreements, making sure we have our work orders done, making sure we don't have too many overtime hours that aren't actually overtime hours, and clock in and clock out on time that's accurate. All of these things that make for a good district and efficient systems to support our schools. And so we will continue to do this with central office operations and efficiency. Looking forward to even greater improvements in transportation, for example, and in maintaining aging facilities. Despite that, we've managed to keep all the schools open, even in the heat, even in the cold, and that's a feat. That's a testament to our FMO, Facilities Maintenance and Operations Chief, and her team. But in any case, there's lots of areas that we're going to be working on here on Key Action 9. So those are the 9 key actions that we have for the district. Specific indicators of success, that's what we're doing. We're in the middle of making sure those are finalized and specific actions. Once we have those indicators, we'll be doing our storyboarding process in in April or May, where we come together and we look at all the key actions and make sure that they're all timed in a way that they won't work at cross purposes. So who has the first questions about the action plan?
Any questions? We'll start. Yes, Trustee Gore.
Thank you. Great list. Question on the biggest challenge I see of these 9, which is the pre-K, right? I mean, if you take a quick look as to the stats around this, it is a massive problem where, upwards 40,000 students just in the Houston area who are eligible for free pre-K don't get enrolled in pre-K, so they show up, 2K with no real, formal structured, public education. So how do you strategically, I know we're aggressively expanding in this area, trying to do everything we can, but how do you practically tackle that big of a gap?
So we will bring some ideas to you, things that we plan on doing at the small group meetings. I think it'll be premature today because I don't have all the details to say. But yes, let me just say this. We get that kids come to us in kindergarten, first, second, some with pre-K, some without, some that have been to kindergartens and not a rigorous program, and many other things. So kids are at all levels. We know that the goal is to make sure they can read by 3rd grade, because after 3rd grade, at least the traditional curriculum is more about comprehension and analysis of text versus learning to read. Now, we've done some different things here in HISD to try to catch those kids up. Even in middle school, we're doing some learning to read interventions, which is painful to hear, but that's where some of our kids are. So we are going to be doing some bold things to try to get kids to learn to read by 3rd grade, and that means doing some really specific work in the kindergarten and 1st grade and 2nd grade areas, not just interventions, but things like advancing or raising the rigor and expanding the time that kids have to learn to read. We already started with the science of reading 3 years ago, so we're going to keep going with that, and I think you're going to see more and more progress as we go.
Yes, Trustee Goosen.
I believe, Superintendent, we have future two. We have, I believe, 2 schools that we're starting with the pilot. What will be the process of examining the outcomes of the pilot, and then how do you see that potentially expanding to other schools, and what's the timeline on that?
Yeah, I can tell you right now we're in the process of thinking about piloting more than 2 schools. We'll bring that to you also at the small group meetings. But that's the right question, sir. So the answer is this. We still have the same metrics or rigorous metrics for reading, math, science, and art of thinking. That's not going to change. That's the morning program. Whether you're in the NES type math or whether you're in accelerated online math, the bar is still the same. So that's not going to change. For the afternoon and the experiences or the activities, it's not going to be loosey-goosey. You probably know I don't do anything loosey-goosey, so there will be, oh yeah, sorry. I wasn't even thinking about that, but we don't do anything loosey-goosey around here. So we will have clear metrics. In fact, every activity, for example, is tied to some aspect of learning, whether it's growing your perspective, decision-making, judgment, problem solving, critical thinking. So each activity has a rubric that's tied to one of those key aspects, and then they have to pass. It's a pass-fail, but it's really unsat, progressing, proficient, and accelerated. They have to be at least at the progressing level. These will be watched closely so that we know that there's some clear outcomes that we can report. When you ask me that question again after half a year of Future 2.
I'm going to take a point of privilege for myself and Garza Lidner on the arts and creativity. So we saw the fantabulousness of HSPVA, and I see creativity on the model here with Future 2. I'm trying to merge the model and thinking about middle and upper school and kind of traditional high school things, the play, the dance, the sports. As you're looking at, can you talk a little bit about, I'm trying to conceive how we're doing Future 2, but also the other wonderful things that kids love and how they express themselves. How does that fit in?
So first of all, you'll see that a lot of the activities are related to dance or creativity or music and things like that. On top of that, you have workshops that each dyad has to check off its requirement. So for example, for 5th and 6th grade dyad, they have to play a musical instrument. That's a requirement. Now, if they already play a musical instrument, good. They don't have to come after school to play unless they want to. We will offer, I think, 5 instruments because we can't, there are financial limitations. But I think the 5 instruments are piano, saxophone, clarinet, flute, and one other. And so students who haven't played a musical instrument, they can't be promoted out of that dyad to the 7th and 8th grade dyad unless they play a musical instrument, and we will check that. And even if they want to come after school, even if they play the sax and they want to learn how to play piano, they can do that. For sports, we have 5 sports that we will offer: soccer, basketball, karate, flag football, and one other. Martial arts. I said karate, so there's dance. And so again, if you already do this, then fine, you've checked it off. But if you want to come anyway, and if you don't have any of those under your belt, or any sport under your belt, you have to come and play. So, and then other things like that. That's just 2 examples. The schools are open from 6:30. They close at 6. The school day ends at 4, so you don't have to stay. But we're providing dinner for every kid if they stay. And that's a great schedule for parents too. Because, sometimes parents work later, and we will take care of the kids. So that's the sort of programming in the afternoon. Look, we can't replicate an HSPVA. But what I'm saying is that's a whole nother level. But what we can do is provide our students with all these activities, experiences, sports, and dance and performance arts, so that they grow in their creativity, in their innovation, in their critical thinking, in their judgment, in their perspective, in their cultural knowledge, and all of those things, which is what employers want for our graduates by the year 2030.
Yes. Thank you. I want to build off of that, but I have another question as well, which is a little more general. Could you go to the list of all of the key actions, just so I...
Well, I don't have a list of all the key
Yeah,
actions.
sorry. I guess we don't have that here, but it's okay. It's okay. The primary question I think I have is this is a plan, right? This is a plan, and I'm wondering about what you and the administration are thinking about. What are the risks to you achieving this plan next year, right? What are those key risks, and how you think about guarding against those? And then how does our community help, right? And our community is very general, right? And maybe there's specific slices of the community you might want to address.
So finances are always a risk, because I can't predict if, for example, this year we had $15 million fewer from the federal government based on things that were happening politically. And that's 15 million for us, but everybody was hit from some of the holdup and redistribution that happened there. So that's a hit that was unpredictable. And there may be other things like that. Still, having said that, we have built up a fund balance. By the way, this year we will give to the board a balanced budget, meaning our revenues are higher than our expenditures in this district, even after we were handed a $256 million deficit when we got here. So we have a decent fund balance that will help in those cases and will help us with this. So we're going to have to continue to be strong. Another risk, which is related to the finances, is enrollment decline. Every time you lose students, you're losing $10,000. And so that enrollment decline is also going to be a risk. But we're budgeting well. We're anticipating. I don't know exactly how the vouchers will impact us, so that's a risk. But we think that most of the vouchers will be used by people already in private schools and probably some pre-K parents. So that's a risk, but I think we've managed our systems well enough that we adjust. And look, we know we have to be frugal, so we don't spend a lot of money on things we don't really need. And that's why we're doing this presentation, because these are our priorities. So other things are not a priority, and some other things sometimes have to get cut if they're not a priority, because this is what our kids need now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Superintendent. We'll now hear the presentation of the board monitoring update on goals 1 and 2 and progress measures 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3.
Yes, and I would be very happy to introduce, again, Allison Levecki and Deputy Superintendent Hull.
And members of the board. I am here tonight to provide a brief overview of goals 1 and 2, which looks at our students in 3rd grade and their progress in reading and math. To begin, we'll start with goal 1, which looks at 3rd grade reading data, and a reminder that all of the goal progress measures related to goal 1 were recently revised in the November meeting to be focused on met expected growth. As recently presented in August, this is our results from the 24-25 STAR exam for our 3rd graders last year, which shows that our 3rd graders, 44% of those 3rd graders were at meets or above on the reading test last year. Our goal for this year's 3rd graders is 49% meets or above. In order to monitor our progress towards that overall goal, we are looking in goal progress measure 1.1 at 3rd grade students' performance on the MAP assessment. Again, we're working with met expected growth on this slide, which is a metric that's calculated by NWEA MAP. They set individual growth targets for students that are in similar groups, and then we are measuring what percentage of those students met those targets from the beginning to the middle of the year in reading. Also, I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that some students exist in multiple groups across this slide, so the group totals may not average or total up as you would expect because of duplication. The main takeaway here is that 62% of our 3rd grade students met or exceeded their growth targets at the middle of the year, indicating that we are on track to meet the annual end of year target of 55. GPM 1.2 looks at our NES students in third grade performance in reading. And here you can see that across both school types, NES and PUA, we're seeing strong performance from our third graders in reading, and they are indicating that they are on track to meet the annual target of 55% met expected growth. GPM 1.3 looks at the performance of our second grade students as a leading indicator of the success of our third graders in the future. And when we look at our second grade performance in reading, we see that 58% of our second graders met or exceeded their growth targets between the beginning and the middle of the year, which indicates that they are on track to meet this GPM at the end of the year. We also wanted you to see the second grade data broken out by NES and PUA. And although there is a slight difference between the two school types, we're confident that they are still showing higher than average growth across the nation because both of those numbers for NES and PUA are higher than 50%, indicating they're higher than average. And we feel that we are on track to meet this metric for second grade students. I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Superintendent Hull to talk about the strategies.
Wonderful. Good evening, Board. So in third grade and reading in particular, we will always talk about how our continued focus is high quality instruction and grade level quality content. And so that's going to continue to be one of our strategies for achieving growth. We also specifically wanted to call out focus areas for our special education students. We have been focused, you just actually saw this in the action plan, we've been focused on improving the quality of instruction for special education students in both general education classrooms, also in self-contained classrooms. One way we have been working on this is piloting co-teach models where our special education teachers and our general education students are jointly teaching classrooms together that are mixed with special education students and general education students. They do common planning time and then they're able to deliver those lessons together. So we've been all campuses are piloting that this year. We'll expand that next year. And then in our self-contained classrooms, what we're really looking at is making sure teachers are appropriately equipped to instruct well by making sure there's not too much of a variance of skill across one teacher in a classroom, and by also thinking about how we limit the number of preps a teacher has to do by themselves in one day, so they're not prepping for reading and math and science. So really making instruction manageable for that teacher so that they can improve quality of instruction in special education. We also have had a big emphasis in the past couple months on reviewing our students' individual IEPs. In this, we're actually really looking at making sure all students are in the least restrictive environment based on their individual disability and their individual situation, and then also making sure that they're receiving the appropriate accommodations and services based on their IEP. So we've improved and enhanced our review process for IEPs. And then because this is the third grade GPM, we actually wanted to highlight a little bit around early literacy. So we're doing a bunch of things here. Again, core to early literacy is ensuring that students have a course in both learning how to read, learning how to crack the code and sound out letters and understand that letters make words, but also learning how to build knowledge of the world and learning, building vocabulary. So we have 2 core courses that we continue to stay focused on in those areas. But in addition to that, and actually you spoke about pre-K and the challenge of some students not coming to HISD with pre-K. One of the things we piloted this year was a kindergarten course specifically for students coming into kindergarten that did not go to pre-K. And so in that course, we actually teach students both the pre-K guidelines and the kindergarten standards in one course to help catch them up. And so we piloted that this year. All of the students in that started off in kinder at the beginning of the year started off basically below benchmark, and at middle of the year, all of them were meeting benchmark. So it was really incredible to see the results of that pilot. So we're really looking at how to adjust coursework.
Yeah, whenever you break, I don't want
Great.
to. You're in the middle of a sentence. Keep going.
So we're piloting those type of accelerated courses, and then we also have additional courses on top of our Tier 1 courses where students can focus on individual skills where they're behind. And so they can do smaller group instruction with teachers on specific skills to help catch them up. That's an additional course as well. So we're really doing a lot to focus on improving and enhancing early literacy supports for all of those learners.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm mentally trying to systems think this pre-K thing, okay, because it's big, and I appreciate your response. So we have this emerging concept of virtual schooling, and I imagine that there are certain constraints to pre-K instructors, classrooms, availability. Like there's a lot teachers. I guess there's a lot there. How are there innovative ways we can really like unlock the constraints of pre-K availability, like through virtual schools or through online, almost like distant learning style things that can happen in the home? Like, are we thinking about those type of expansions of pre-K as well to make sure that even if someone doesn't, cross our doors or the doors to one of our schools, they can start to get some of the pedagogical instruction that the team here is working so hard to create?
Yes, it's a great question. And with pre-K, one of the challenges about it is you actually have to have specific strategies for every zone. Because in some zone, you actually might have a considerable amount of space available in schools, and your biggest challenge is actually just making sure families know and are aware that we have pre-K seats available to fill. In other zones, your challenge actually might be there's a high excess of demand for pre-K, but our schools are at capacity. And so in those situations, what we actually have focused a lot more on is partnerships and actually figuring out how we can find other partners who are serving those students where we can partner with them to help improve quality of instruction because we actually don't have more space. I think to your point around virtual pre-K, we haven't looked at virtual pre-K yet, but I think every time we move into action planning, we're always open to ideation and really thinking about how things could look and feel different. The other thing that's more challenging in pre-K than others is parents haven't enrolled yet, so we don't have a touch point with them. So we've actually started a lot of on-the-ground awareness campaigning to actually just help make sure families know what's available, but that's boots on the ground, man hours, again, to get the word out.
Right, and the reason I'm pegging on this, and it may not be intuitive, but if we're saying a 2030 goal for a second grader or a third grader, right, I guess prospectively that same student now is a pre-K4 student, or maybe even, right? So like the future goals are sort of being, determined. Our success on future goals is being determined now, given the sort of compounding effect of education at the early ages. So I'm just, I'm constantly thinking about how can we be creative to reduce the constraints that are limiting the number of pre-K students who get this high quality education.
Thank you. So we're going to look forward to the 2.0 on the SPED that the superintendent talked about, some of the things you're ideating on. And so I think what we're saying is we're looking forward to see the way you guys choose to innovate on that so we can touch them. Before we go on, if there are other people like in this pause time, I wanted to ask you, so you talked about the co-teach model. You talked about some of the things that we're doing to make sure that our students with disabilities, that we are improving the quality of instruction. And you talked about the co-teach model. I understand that in NES. Are you saying we rolled that out even in PUA, that all principals have the directive to create a schedule that creates this co-teach model? Because that's a beast of a change. So where are we with that process?
The challenge in co-teach, you're absolutely right, is scheduling and staffing. And so where teachers are and what the schedule looks like depends on how free they are. So when we piloted, we actually did it in a bite-sized way where a teacher, we partnered a special education teacher with just one teacher and had them co-teach once a week, because we couldn't totally pull them from everything we're doing in this year when schedules were already up and going. And so we did it in a way that allowed for training, allowed for practice, allowed for instructional coaching for our special education teachers in a way that was manageable for this year. As we move into next year, this actually is the time where our campus leaders will be looking at their master schedules, looking at their staffing, and they can think more systematically around how they can implement these practices next year in a better way.
Is there a way for the principals who piloted, are they sharing that information so that the 2.0, like people are learning from that and that's what they're using as their action planning?
All principals piloted, just in a small scale. So they didn't pilot across their whole campus.
But
they
they've all done
piloted
it.
one day a week with their special education teachers as well. So not all general education teachers piloted as well, just their special education teachers did. But yes, we are going to look at best practices.
That's a true innovation. I just want to call that out. And also, in terms of support for teachers, our SPED teachers are the experts. Are we providing support to the general ed teachers that are working with them? Because this is their business. And I know as a parent, that they know their stuff. Sometimes the conflict comes in when a teacher doesn't have the background, so they don't understand how to implement. So are you providing support not just for our SPED teachers, but for the teachers that don't have that background?
Yes, a critical component of the pilot was making sure the special education teacher and the general education teacher had a joint planning time. And in that planning time, the special education teacher is bringing the knowledge of the student's disability and the IEP to the conversation, and the RLA or math teacher is bringing the content knowledge to the conversation, and they're working together to figure out how to best set up that lesson to serve the student. So the co-planning time is incredibly critical for a successful co-teach model to work.
That's just an awesome innovation. Thank you. Can we move forward? One more? Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit more on our SPED teachers. And thank you for that question, because what I'm wondering about is, can you tell me a little bit about the challenges to achieve this? I'm wondering, because I'd heard previously we have this constant challenge with, let's say, retaining teachers, and especially from a SPED perspective, the needs, the demands are especially high. I'm wondering how you've seen that maybe evolve and how you're thinking about that as you think about these strategies.
I think for us, as we look at our special education teachers, we're continuing to give them the same coaching and support for high quality instruction as our general education teachers. But the other thing we're being extra mindful for with special education teachers is how to balance the workload for some of the other items that they have to do. So there's a lot of documentation, and there's a lot of meetings that they go to, and so how can we actually free up some of their time so that they have the right amount of support and time to focus on instruction. And that's also a scheduling and staffing. To fix that, you actually have to look at scheduling and staffing. But we're very mindful of that for those teachers so that they actually have the time and space to instruct well.
I think we can move on. Thank you.
Is the mic on? Okay, yeah, it's on now. As again, the goal progress measures related to goal 2 were recently reset in November to be focused on met expected growth as the key metric here. To begin, we look at our most recent STAR scores, which were presented to you in August. And here we see that last year's third grade students, 46% of them were at meets or above in math, and the target for this year's third grade students is 47%. Looking at GPM 2.1, this is, we see that 65% of our third grade students met expected growth between the beginning and middle of year in math, which puts them on track to meet the annual target of 55. Looking at GPM 2.2 across NES and PUA campuses, we see that third grade students are consistently performing well, with 66 and 64% of third graders meeting expected growth, and they are on track to meet the annual target of 55. Looking at GPM 2.3, we are evaluating our second grade student performance as a leading indicator of our future third grade cohort. And here we see that our second graders, 57% of them are meeting their expected growth target in math, which puts them on track to meet the end of year target at 55. Lastly, looking at second graders across NES and PUA, again, we do see a slight difference here between the two campus types. However, we believe that all of our students are on track to meet that 55% by the end of the year. And as a place to ground yourselves, remembering that the growth targets are set so that an average of 50% of students across the nation will meet those targets. So any number above 50% is performing better than the national norm as far as growth. Deputy Sue?
I can be fast here because a lot of these are the same in math as they were in RLA. The same focuses on special education. The one additional one to call out is in math, content builds on itself over time. And so we've introduced a lot of trainings for teachers and leaders at the unit level that actually say across the full unit, here is what's upcoming, so they get the full scope and can better internalize and build the content knowledge to provide those supports to students. And so we've just added a number of trainings that leaders can access, that teachers can access to help make sure they're prepared to internalize and teach the lesson well.
Any more questions? Thank you for such a thorough presentation for both. Thank you. I will now open the floor for our monitoring conversation. So I think we asked our questions. Is everybody good? Yes. Okay. We will now hear from our remaining registered speakers in Group B, first in person and then those on Zoom. We have seats in the front row reserved for the next group of speakers. So please occupy those seats if you are up next. Please come to the microphone in your numbered order, beginning with number 41, and state your name and topic.
Yes, ask for a point of privilege, if I could have 30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
So I believe that each interaction that I've had with this body and the other elected officials have had with this body has been respectful. And I think whether that's in large group or in small group. 4 different occasions this evening, one member referred to another member as a trustee. And I take issue with that because by the TEA definition, you're the board of managers. You are not elected trustees. And I worry that if the conversation, the use of the term trustee continues to percolate this evening or in other meetings out to the public, it could confuse the public. And I don't imply that there's a sinister reason behind it, but I know that decorum is asked of us as we speak and participate this evening, and I would ask for that same courtesy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have never made a position on trustee versus board members, so I don't want to change the process today. So I don't want to establish a process one way or another. So this is not, it's for us semantics, but I take your point into consideration. Thank you. We'll now hear our first speaker.
Carmen Nuncio, number 41, followed by the next speakers.
Good evening. My name is Carmen Nuncio. Miles, I want to give you a compliment. We know you are intelligent, skillful, and good at getting things done. We know you were sent here to do a job, and you are good at destroying things and ruining people's lives. But I pray that you gain wisdom. You know right from wrong, but you choose the almighty dollar. Taking orders does not excuse your actions or the pain you have caused. AI cannot be controlled, yet you are allowing it to teach our kids. People cannot be controlled. One thing we have is numbers. We outnumber you. We will vote just like we did on your bond. Let your friends in Austin know that we
Thank you, ma'am. Next, please.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm here to talk about item number 2 on your agenda, which was book purchasing. Before you purchase new books, you need to get rid of the 500 filthy books that you have. I'm going to read one. If there's children in the audience, they need to leave.
Ma'am, point of order, this is a public hearing.
I understand that.
You will not be allowed to read things that are not appropriate in public.
Oh, not
so-
appropriate. Then why are they in your schools?
Ma'am,
This
you're
book
missing your time.
is in DeBakey, Fur, and Heights High School. His cock was enormous.
Absolutely not, ma'am. You are now out of order. This is your first warning. One more word and you will be removed.
She wrapped her hand around his cock. She
Absolutely
licked across
not.
his broad
This is your
head,
second
tongue
warning. Thank you,
sliding into
miss.
the small slit.
Officer, please
If you
escort
don't like
this
it,
woman
remove
from
it
the
so the
podium.
children don't have access to it.
You're being removed. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Richard Scarborough. For 56 years, I've been involved in full-time ministry. 50 of those have served right here in Houston, the city where I graduated from a public school. Having addressed over 20,000 pastors face-to-face, I can tell you I have never met a biblical pastor who supports children having access to books that are so explicit they are banned in our prisons here in Texas. Jesus declared that all authority has been given to him. He also warned that if anyone causes one of these little ones to stumble, it would be better for them to have a millstone hung around their neck and be cast into the sea. That millstone awaits those of you who use your delegated authority to ignore federal and state law by keeping these materials in our libraries. If you continue to refuse their removal from HISD, I will dedicate the rest of my life to ensuring you that you're held accountable, including lawsuits. Do the right thing and get the books out of our libraries.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
They're still there.
Hello, I'm Rodolfo Morales. I'm an HSPVA alum, now in my 23rd year as an HSPVA music director. And I will speak about why HSPVA Friends is the right partner for our school under the proposed SB 1882. What HSPVA Friends does for us is simple. They listen, they challenge us, and they ask, what do you need to provide the best education for your students? For tonight, I conducted an informal poll among my colleagues and asked for their honest opinions about HSPVA Friends, and was not surprised to learn they have a 100% approval among our teachers, who are very grumbly. Such support exists because our school and HSPVA Friends grew up together, from campus to campus and from decade to decade. HSPVA Friends is our community's natural answer to the perennial question, how do we make this round peg fit that square hole? We need a partner as innovative as the brilliant students who walk through our doors, and HSPVA.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Denise Bell, 45. Followed by Rebecca Saunders.
Oh, not Denise. Okay. Hi, my name is Denise Bell. I'm a mom of 4, and I'm a former parent in HISD, and I'm the chapter chair for Moms for Liberty Harris County. I'm here to speak on agenda item 2 and to express my concerns about your new proposed book acquisition list based on your current library collection, which contains sexually explicit literature that is available to minors in your schools. As a public school district, you are state-sponsored and taxpayer-funded. Therefore, the materials that you put in front of children must be curated very carefully. School districts have a right and responsibility to not only make sure the books they provide are age-appropriate, but to also remove any materials that are considered, 1, not educationally suitable, or 2, pervasively vulgar. I'd like to remind the HISD board and administration that you have the ability to remove books that don't follow those guidelines, and also you need to meet the requirements of TSLAC, as well as state laws like House Bill 900 and SB 13. The law is not a suggestion, it's a requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Rebecca Saunders, and I'm a science teacher at Kinder HSPVA. Soon, you're voting on a contract between HISD and HSPVA Friends. Please be assured that our school is ready and willing to do the work, and an SB 1882 partnership will give us the autonomy to do even more for our students academically. Our students are exceptionally gifted and passionate about the arts, coming from a range of demographics and academic backgrounds around the Houston area. A 50-plus year collaboration with HSPVA Friends allows and encourages students to grow into amazing and wonderful artists. But my goal is to give you the perspective of an academic teacher in a school of artists. As a teacher of science, the struggle is often to make difficult, abstract concepts and math processes understandable to students. At PVA, I have the flexibility to tailor my courses to be more relevant to them and provide targeted interventions in a way that makes sense. My colleagues, both academic and art, have similar abilities which they use to benefit students. This freedom is invaluable, and this partnership will allow us the autonomy.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Janice Jarrows, and I serve as the board chair of HSPVA Friends, and my husband and I are also the parents of 2 Kinder HSPVA alumni. HSPVA Friends has been working alongside the school's faculty and staff for nearly 50 years. Now we, the 13-member HSPVA Friends board, are ready to take on the governance responsibilities of overseeing the school's operations and ensuring its academic accountability. We are committed to preserving everything that already makes HSPVA extraordinary and to helping it grow to meet the needs of future generations of young artists from across HISD. SB 1882 gives the school greater autonomy to shape its curriculum while remaining an HISD public school serving a diverse student population. Thank you to the board, to Superintendent Mike Miles, and to the HISD team we've been in conversations with for this opportunity. We look forward to continuing.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Floyd. No time, no see. Superintendent, hi. I'm here to speak on the Superintendent Action Plan. And basically, Floyd's plan is a failure, just like him. Certified teachers have left. Thousands of students have left, and there are school closings. He is incompetent and not smart enough to pass the certification test. Why do you all keep allowing him to fail? Why do y'all keep allowing him to fail? He needs an exit plan and not an action plan. And also to Ms. Flowers, I want you to know tokens get spent.
Kathy Kahanek, followed by Guadalupe Mendez.
My name is Kathy Kahanek. I am a former energy parent, and I am honored to serve as the acting chair of the Friends of Energy Board. The board is deeply committed to supporting Energy's mission and vision. Contrary to what speaker number 1 said, Friends of Energy was formed in May of 2020 and is not a new, inexperienced nonprofit. It exists for one reason: to ensure that Energy continues to thrive as an innovative, student-centered public school. Our board brings experience in education, engineering, finance, and nonprofit governance, and we are committed to strong oversight, transparency, and partnership with the district. We believe an 1882 partnership positions Friends as a trusted and capable governing partner, one that protects Energy's autonomy while remaining aligned with student outcomes and state accountability. Friends stands ready to support Energy responsibly and collaboratively. We respectfully ask for your approval. Thank
you so much.
Good evening. My name is Guadalupe Mendez, a current creative writing teacher at Kinder High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. I'm also the former Texas Poet Laureate 2022-23. I come before you today as a 20-plus year veteran in education, and to offer sincere thanks as Kinder HSPVA steps forward to continue its legacy as an innovative space that works for equity in the arts. Since its beginning in August of '71, HSPVA has led the way in developing young arts learners into performance-ready arts leaders in the world. We are a home that looks to the future. We are a dreaming space, always journeying to provide the best learning hubs for every kind of student that walks in the door. As the school moves forward with its work under SB 1882, we know we can continue this mission with your continued support. I sincerely thank you for all the time and effort you have provided us as we build something new.
Thank you so much.
Christy Michelle Brewster, your retired school nurse. Floyd, why do you bother with the consent agenda? We understand you're grouping these important items so you can vote one time for everything. The Board of Puppets and you are following the direction of Governor Wheelchair. So the secret is out. So why are you bothered with public comments way down the agenda item after all the hoopla of the crapola? We know you don't want to hear from us, but the 5% we still hear you, see. Why are you bothering with this 1882 partnership? We know it's nothing but a precursor, including that Future 2 campus that you're getting ready, those two. We know it's a precursor to the future, your third future corruption. So why bother, Trump, Floyd? Haven't you robbed us enough already? The secret is out. And we got a solution to your bothering, because we're going to bother in November. We're going to get us the right governor and a real TEA commissioner. Then we can say,
Good evening. My name is Morgan Chavers, and I am an advocate with the Houston Parent Action Network and a concerned community member. I want to acknowledge the progress in the Goal Progress Monitoring Report. It is encouraging to see growth across multiple student groups and to know that the district is moving in the right direction. At the same time, the data makes something very clear. Not all students are experiencing that progress in the same way. We continue to see gaps for students with disabilities, emergent bilingual learners, and economically disadvantaged students. Progress overall does not equal progress for everyone. If we are serious about student success, equity cannot just be a focus area, it has to be the outcome. The district must set clear expectations and accountability for closing gaps between student groups and ensure that every strategy is evaluated based on whether it is actually improving outcomes for students who have been historically underserved by this very district. Every child deserves the same opportunity to succeed, no matter whom or where they come.
Thank you so much.
Could the remaining speakers move to the front row, please? Remaining speakers, please move to the front row. We'll hear number 53 next.
Hello, my name is Pam Randall, and I'm a parent of a sophomore at Challenge Early College High School, and I'm also a scientist with more than 30 years experience in data analytics and management. As a parent and a scientist, I stand here in support of item 1010 26-095, approval of a contract with Friends of Challenge Early College High School to operate Challenge Early College High School with Texas Partnership Benefits 1882. This item is an important step in Challenge Early College High School becoming a Texas 1882 partnership campus under HISD in collaboration with the Board of Friends of Challenge Early College High School. Supporting this partnership will provide the Challenge Early College High School with increased flexibility to be innovative while keeping instruction as the top priority. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and to be a part of the early Challenges community.
Thank you so much. Next, please.
Dr. Hoffman-Lack.
Hi, Ruth Hoffman-Lack, Dr. Ruth Hoffman-Lack. Mr. Gore, you might want to, I believe your wife is a school psychologist. You need to ask her about the research on how bad screens are for children, and the idea of doing virtual pre-K is like the worst idea in the world. Although creative, not a good idea. A thing you might want to notice in the reports is that the kids in third grade in special ed, well, in special ed across all the grades, that are in PUA schools, where you are giving less money to special ed, are in fact doing better than the NES schools, even with less money, which should tell you something about which program is really better for kids. Also, I think it is sad that our amazing high schools, my son went to PVA, that they are having to come kiss the ring to ask you to let them do these other partnerships so that they can actually do the amazing programs they've always been doing for years.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vanessa Sivage. I'm a pediatric nurse and HISD resident and the president of Protecting Texas Children. I'm here to talk about item 2 on your agenda. Before I do that, Mr. Miles, I was actually present in Austin last spring in the Senate when you highlighted the reforms you've implemented in HISD, reforms that have virtually eliminated failing schools and quite literally given students a chance at a quality education and a future of success and opportunity. I want you to know that despite the very loud and obnoxious majority today in this room, there are millions of people who are deeply grateful for your leadership and what you have done. Over the past several years, I have spoken out after witnessing, my time is almost up, but I want to talk about the book Doing It, which is in one of your schools, which is a deeply perverted and inappropriate book that I would ask that you review and please remove it from your schools as it is harmful to the mental and...
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Marcus Hadke. I'm a Houston resident, teaching for 17 years, 5 at Kinder HSPVA. It is my privilege to chair the vocal department where our singers go on to study music at top universities and conservatories. HSPVA has been a school of innovation since its inception, the aim being to create a space where young artists could develop their talent under the instruction of master teachers. 55 years later, we are still at it. Our founding philosophy that education is an adventure and trust remains a guiding principle. For nearly 50 years, we have held a trusted partnership with HSPVA Friends, who has consistently funded our art areas. As chair, I am trusted by our principal to craft a 4-year vocal curriculum and trusted by Friends to use the funding we receive to bring our curriculum to life. From expert consultants and guest artists to mountains of music and instructional subscriptions, the work we do with and for our students would be impossible without our existing partnership with HSPVA Friends. I would like to ask the board to approve.
Thank you, sir.
I have 57, Adriana Izquierdo, followed by Mariam Lopez, followed by Catherine Gauchi. Sarah, you're number 63. Go ahead. Sarah Trill. Calvin Luck.
In 2020, HISD caught Friends taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in supply and ticket fees from PVA. HISD audited the school but had no audit rights over the Friends records. In 2016, HISD sold the naming rights of HSPVA to the Kinder Foundation for $7.5 million. The middleman, HSPVA Friends, kept about $2 million of that money. It's on their balance sheet in restricted funds, but the 2016 agreement ends this year, so they can probably do what they want with it after that. This is what happens when the board doesn't get time to read the agreement and we don't have audit rights over the private parent entity. How will these schools answer public information requests, an expensive and technical obligation? And Miles says we hope they'll take diverse kids. Can you ensure that PVA auditions are not a black box where perhaps donations to Friends?
Good evening. My name is Calvin Mark, and I'm the senior engineering teacher at Energy Institute High School. I'm here to express how critical it is for Energy to move forward with an 1882 partnership to sustain our unique engineering pathway. At Energy, Students don't just learn engineering, we practice it. In our senior capstone, students identify problems, they interview stakeholders, design solutions, and present their work publicly. This year, 2 teams partnered with Moonflower Farms, a local hydroponic startup, to improve a smart greenhouse system. They designed a programmable camera gantry for active monitoring and integrated the sensor suite into a sleek touchscreen control panel. Through projects like these, students build real skills in CAD, programming, and iterative design, while also learning to communicate and collaborate with a real client. This kind of learning requires planning time, flexibility, specialized equipment, and industry connections. An 1882 partnership helps protect these conditions. Approving this is investing in real-world learning and
Thank you so much.
Michelle Williams, Houston Education Association. And I would like to first talk about this targeted improvement plan, which has an error on here. Evidence-based interventions is not make data part of ongoing cycle. It's an implementation of strategies, which I've already proven HISD doesn't do. Also, Atherton was a thriving school. It became F-rated under Mr. Miles. The 1882 partnerships, you're selling these people a bill of goods, and it's going to be bait and switch. They think they're getting something, they're selling their souls. Nothing that you all are promising they will get. And I'm going to end with this. How many times do I have to beat HISD? How many times do I have to show the legal strength of the National Education Association? Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Calabra Bichot, grandparent of 1 HISD student and 2 grandkids who have left the district due to the current policies and practices. First, I ask the board to extend the school choice deadline for families impacted by the school closures. These parents were only given 2 weeks' notice of these closures, even though the administration during the last board meeting said that this strategy was known and the schools selected months before. They should be given priority and additional time. Second, I ask the board to vote no on the plan for the in-charter partnerships for the 4 high schools. The stated purpose of SB 1882 in-district charter partnerships was to avoid state takeover. Why would these long-established, high-performing schools like HSPVA need in-charter partnerships? Your leadership is selling these charter partnerships as a path for more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Kravitz, followed by Ms. Heiner. Oh, go ahead.
Good evening. Our kids really do deserve better, and I appreciate every one of the parents and teachers who love their schools, including at HSPVA Energy HISD Challenge. And I understand the quandary that they're in, but they're being sold a bag of goods. Miles, you can offer them autonomy without turning the schools into 1882 partners. If they don't have autonomy now, why should we expect it under this partnership? As you know, the promise of extra funding is another illusion. The extra dollars will be eaten up by bureaucracy and pay for service costs. Worse, since 1882 operators are treated by state law as vendors, the law is as thin as what one would see if you were doing a contract with a paper towel vendor. That is why we need to see the contracts, which aren't, as of right now, available to the public. That is why, in response to Miles sending Third Future's 1882 funding to Colorado schools, Morath said, as a vendor of Third Future's, TFS may use the funds as they...
Thank you.
Hello, Jesse Heiner. I'm here to talk about 1882 partnerships, not necessarily any one specific one, but the process and the information that you're being given by HISD leadership. So just to give you an idea, about resignations in lieu of termination. The person who was here promising you all of these safeguards and all of these financial clean audits and things like that resigned in lieu of termination from Midland ISD when he was the superintendent there, so Orlando Riddick. He is also the one that gave Mike Miles his first 1882 partnership through Midland ISD to Third Future Schools. And I suspect that's why he's here now making over $300,000 a year. The other thing I wanted to just highlight was Milby High School. They have something that was left out of the highlight today was that they have lost 5 students. They've had 5 students die just in the last year. And La Raza is a group that has really carried the mental health.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mindan Tran. I'm speaking on behalf of a former administrator at Wharton Dual Language. After more than 20 years of service to HISD in paraprofessional roles, during which I was respected and cherished by my school community, I was suddenly subjected to degradation and humiliation under new leadership appointed during the state takeover. Despite a record of excellence, I was labeled incompetent and endured near daily threats of termination. HISD, under the takeover, regards staff as replaceable cogs, and the merits and skills of devoted employees are not valued. The new principal disregarded my dedication through surgeries, a heart attack, a stroke, and caring for a special needs child. My removal from a position I held with honor is a stark example of injustice in HISD. In this David and Goliath battle, Goliath prevailed, not by merit, but by sheer power, and those who suffer are staff like me and the children and communities we serve.
Thank you.
Vice President Flowers, that concludes our public comment.
Thank you. That concludes our hearing of speakers. Do I have a motion to accept the board monitoring update, presentation of goals 1 and 2, progress measures 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3? I have a motion from Board Member Garza Lidner and a second from Dr. Cruz Arnold. Once we are ready, please vote. The voting is closed. The motion is 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. The motion passes. Next, we will consider action items on the agenda. Board policy requires board members to abstain from all discussion and votes pertaining to contracts that might involve a conflict of interest, where policy BBFA local defines a conflict of interest as any circumstance that could cast doubt on a board member's ability to act with total objectivity with regard to the district's interest. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda items by consent agenda? I have a motion from Board Member Colon, and I have a second from Board Member Mendoza. Please vote. The voting is closed. And we have, again, 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. The motion to approve tonight's agenda by consent passes. At this time, the board will recess to close section under Chapter 551 of Texas Government Code Open Acts, subsection 551.004 through 551.089. Should board final action, vote, or decision on any matter considered in the closed session be required, such final action, vote, or decision shall be taken at the open meeting covered by this notice upon the reconvening of this public meeting or at the subsequent public meeting of the board upon notice therein. The board has recessed to closed session at 8:06 p.m. on March 19th, 2026. Good evening. This meeting is reconvened at 9:22 p.m. We are now ready to consider items discussed in closed session. Are there any motions?
Yes, please. I move that the board approves the closed session personnel agenda, including specifically the board approves proposed terminations, non-renewals of continuing term, performance, and probationary contracts, that the board approves suspensions without pay for continuing term and probationary contracts, that the board approves a finding of no good cause for educators to resign or abandon employment contracts without district consent, that the board voids term, probationary, and performance contracts, that the board approves withdrawals of contract recommendations, that the board approves issuance of final orders on contract terminations and non-renewals, that the board authorizes the superintendent to give notice of all approved actions herein and take steps to effectuate same pursuant to HISD board policy and state law, effective March 19th, 2026.
Thank you. Is there a second? I have a motion by Board Member Garza-Lidner and a second by Board Member Mendoza. Please vote. The voting is closed. We have 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. The motion passes. Is there another motion? Or is that all? Excellent. The next board meeting will be held April 9th, 2026. There being no further business, the meeting is officially adjourned at 9:23 p.m. Thank you.